All he's doing is showing off how good he is when he breaks the rules.
Yeah.
They're doing sticky hands with him. Then what does he do? He's slow. Oh, Bob, let me get. Oh, I can get you now. Oh, let me kick you.
So it's like Bruce Lee.
I'll elbow you on the head.
You fight before? Yeah. You good? Yeah, I'm good. Good defense? Yeah. But train different in America. Your defense stinks.
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
And Steve Newby.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
Right. Okay, honest to God. Right, everybody, welcome. We're going because
let's go.
We've not had a green light. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Welcome to the Kung Fu Podcast. What are we, 40? Is this 40? Is this midlife crisis zone? I don't know.
Not in the middle.
I think, I don't know what number we are. Let me find out what number we are.
Maybe it could be 40.
I think it is. But let me just double check.
It's my age.
Yeah. It's closer to my age, which is more depressing. Yes, we're from 40, number 40. Oh my goodness me, 40 episodes of us drooling on. How you been, old man? You all right?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, you're looking well? You're looking nice and healthy and thin?
Yeah, the sun's shining brightly now. Yes.
Well,
I'll be down that lake soon.
I'm sure you will, on your floaty rubber ring and your pina colada.
We've got a big parrot. It genuinely is a parrot. It's a floating thing which you get about 8 people on. Yeah. The trouble is you stick it on the lake and you never see us again. Just blow away. It's 85 miles long, that lake. That's going to be a long paddle back.
Why did you go for a parrot out of interest?
Well, pirates and all that. I just thought. So basically what it is a huge ring, because in Penticton they have this river run every summer.
Right.
And you basically get on the river at a certain point in time and it takes 4 hours to float down and everybody just takes booze, although you're not supposed to drink in public.
Sorry, so what did you say?
It's a river run.
Booze. You said booze.
Booze, yeah.
I thought you said poos. I was wondering what kind of what kind of sordid.
Where's your mind?
The sound went funny. I was like, anyway,
yeah, all right. So yes,
sounds great.
They take beverage.
Right. Okay.
And they
just float around.
And you just float down the river for 4 hours and you get from one lake to the next.
Oh, sounds
slightly below. The one's slightly below the other, so it's a very slow running river. And everybody just goes on it with these huge, and everybody's there. I don't know if it's going to run this. Depends on the COVID, I guess. But it is outdoors, and you are on your own ring, so
yeah, I guess so. Well,
I don't see why not.
Anywho, we've got stuff to discuss. Yeah, Kung Fu.
We're going to talk some Kung Fu today, I guess.
Apparently, where are we going off with this? I don't know. What do we want to chat about? Do we want to start with the sets in Laogar and why they are all linked?
Bearing in mind, we did have some information about, or people were suggesting that Lao is not has got all the sets are completely, made up or whatever, or they've been strung together from different times and.
Yeah, but
I just thought we'd apply it. We'd just try to apply it.
Yeah,
maybe educate some people without educating them too much.
So the thing that gets right, I think a lot of this. You look at Wing Chun, right? You look at Wing Chun as a style, and you say 3 sets in Wing Chun, empty hand, right? And you can clearly kind of see, oh, it's Wing Chun because the first one looks like the second one. The second one looks like the first one, and the third one looks like the second and the first. So you can look at Wing Chun and you can say it all looks very similar, can't you?
Yeah, mainly because they're pretty short sets too.
Right. In all fairness. But, you look at Lao and just going on aesthetic alone, the second set, obviously we know it's a continuation of the first set, but it looks different. It's changed.
They're two standing practice sets.
Yeah, right. Okay. So my point is, with one, with Wing Chun, you can clearly look at it and go, Wing Chun. But with Lao, the sets do look different. They look different.
Because there's more of them and they're split up.
Right.
So if you've got 3 sets, then you're going to do that set in one particular way, then you do the next set and so on. But with Lao, it's got 7 basic forms. So you could, if you wanted to, put the 2 together, then they would look very much like Wing Chun, wouldn't they, the first and the second set? Or you could separate them and learn them separately because they have different connotations or different aspirations, shall I say, different methods of training.
Yeah.
So it's just that's the way it is, I mean, you can say karate sets all look the same, but different. All sets look different. They've all different things in them, but they all end up doing the same thing. I think what we've got to suggest today really is to point out, if you like, and correct a few misconceptions, is that the sets are pretty much all the same. There's the only one that looks completely different is Chop Choi, because you get to a point, as you would in karate, where you start moving. Yeah,
that's the third set.
Yeah, you start putting your footwork in it, and if you put your footwork in it, you'll find lots and lots of different stances in it. And as you do it, why confuse it? You're working on one particular technique that's pretty hard to do. In reality, it'd be hard to do. It would take a lot of training, so the concentration is on that one particular move.
All right. Well, just to elaborate for the listeners.
Well, it's just on a Phoenix eye, if you want it, Phoenix fist, Phoenix whatever people call them.
Right.
And it's in the first knuckle, and people say, well, how do you hold it? Well, basically your thumb is holding it because the thumb is preventing it from going in. Yeah. So all you're doing is it is a thrusting or twisting motion, and a lot of people call it it is chop. Chop just means to drill. Yeah. Right. It's like and Master Yao describes it as planting rice in the field. Yeah. Stomping into the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, and then people see it in the set and they see that and they think, well, it's not. But of course, that is what's called an end or a dead punch. Yeah. Just the same as you wouldn't punch anyone like that. Right. You would punch them at that point and it would go through and through and through and then end up dead.
Right.
So if you're doing a Chop Choi, you would be hitting, in that sense. And at that point, you would be hitting it. Yeah. And then it would end up at the end. Okay. So it's like, boom. So if you were to do it without ending, it wouldn't have any range.
Yes.
So you finish the range.
Yes.
That's why it ends up like that.
Yeah. Well, you talked about that on a couple of podcasts back, didn't we? When we talked about the straight punch.
Yeah, the straight punch.
Why we're hitting at that point instead of letting it.
Yeah, you don't think you'll ever punch anyone like that. Not in a real range, unless it's like a long range punch where you can really just reach them to prevent them reaching you. So if you've got a longer reach, then you probably would use that more. But if you was a much shorter person, you would more likely use it like that. Hence the reason, this is more popular in Chinese martial arts than this is.
Because the emphasis is on closing the gap.
The emphasis on very close quarters, yeah.
Right. But that's not to say, and I mean, the emphasis is on close quarters, but it doesn't mean you have to fight at close quarters.
No, you have a close quarters, you have a mid range, and you have long range. Right. Well, of course, if you're a long person, you do a punch like that. Your kick is exactly the same length. If you did a punch like so with your shoulder as well, and you stick your foot out flat with a flat foot like a kick, you will find that they're the same range. Yeah, they're the same range. If you're standing up, the way that you can make your punch longer, of course, is to lean forward, which means you give them your target. But with a kick, of course, the benefit is you lean backwards as you kick. and the kick is longer.
Are you? No, we've got in trouble before about saying specifics. When you say it's exactly the same range.
Oh, we better be careful.
You don't mean it's the same range.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a couple of inches. All right, calm down.
Depends how much you reach.
Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, that's fine. So we were talking about the continuation or the continuity of the sets in now. We've got 7 sets, 7 basic forms prior to you taking a black slash, which you've got to go through. Repeat now,
and originally the 7th one was after black slash.
Right, okay. But, there you go. Definitely made up because they're changing when they do the forms. Right, yeah. So common threads amongst the sets. We can, it's fair to say that we can find techniques in the first set, that's in the second set, that's in the third, fourth, fifth. We can comment. Now, but if we're going to talk about a common thread, have we got any common principles or ideas or what's the word I'm looking for? Anything that linking these sets as opposed to just the physical movements themselves?
Well, that's hard to say. It's just, they are pretty much the same things. The only difference is you're using the same movement for a different reason, maybe in a different angle, maybe a different height, maybe a different range.
Right.
All you're doing is applying pretty much the same technique. And yes, there are going to be more techniques added as you go because obviously you advance. And then it's up to you to try to find those things in it. But many of them have good examples of, this block is used in every single, pretty much every set. But you'll do it like that with the sharp joy.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Well, it's still the wrist, isn't it?
Yeah. It's utilizing the same thing. Remember, we talked this morning in your training that basically, as far as techniques are concerned, it's like having the larger A, and then that A is then apparent in every kind of word that uses the letter A. But the A is in different areas, different places for different reasons.
Yeah.
Spells different words. So it's like, there it is. There's the initial movement. Oh, let's call that the move of the set.
Yeah.
But then when you apply it, it's not going to look the same. No. And at the same time, of course, you do it big when you're learning initially.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a very small movement. But of course, you may do it very big, and then you're going to do it, a bit smaller. Then you're going to do a bit smaller. Then you're going to do it very small. And eventually, it won't look the same. It'll just be just a quick movement. Yeah. And then, but for that reason, and even just that reason alone, it's going to be used differently.
Yeah.
It's got to be utilized. So it's one move that is utilized. When you look through the sets, you will see that one move being utilized in different ways. And of course, in the later sets, you're doing it with a secondary move as well.
Yeah.
So that first move looks like that. And they go, well, that's not the same as that. Well, bloody course it is.
Careful, old man. You're getting controversial now. You're getting controversial. Yeah. No, it is. What was I going to say? I was going to say something really interesting, but it's just gone out of my mind.
That would make a change.
It would, wouldn't it? Oh God. We were talking about, so the size of the movement is, obviously you're talking about when you start learning, it's going to be, a big movement. And with the intention is you're trying to eliminate I say unnecessary movement, but my point is going to be sometimes the situation may call you to use a bigger technique as opposed to a smaller one. So even though you're saying that, we're trying to reduce, the smaller the move, the faster the fight, but, that's situation dependent, right?
Yeah, it's totally dependent. If someone grabs your shoulder and you swing your arm all the way around, your whole weight around, and you bring it up like a big uppercut or something.
Yeah, right.
You're using a very big motion, but you're using it for a reason.
Right.
So it looks kung fu-y.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
but of course it has a use. But then if someone grabs your wrist and you do the same thing, it looks totally different.
Right.
But it's the same move.
It's the same move.
Yeah.
Now let's just, for the sake of other people listening, obviously we're coming from the Lau Gar perspective, but with all due respect, we are just talking about martial science right now. So irrespective of what kung fu style you do, you could take the same ideas and principles and apply it to sort of Sunim Tao and Wing Chun or, you know, Hung Gar or Choi Li Foot or whatever. The point is you see a lot of Kung Fu motions, but in some styles, they're going to emphasize bigger movements, Choi Li Foot. In other styles, they're going to emphasize smaller movements, Wing Chun, you know. But really, what we're trying to say is or suggest that, you know, even if it's a big movement, it has a use. If it's a small movement, it's going to have a use.
And that's the same movement.
And it's the same, it's the same movement.
It's the same movement, but people look at it and go, oh, it's a different move now.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not a different move. It's just a different way of learning it, a different way of understanding it, a different way of perceiving it, a different way of using it.
Do you think that, where do you think the problem is with people training and teaching these sets? If you had I'm suggesting there is a problem, but obviously there's going to be a lot of people who are going to misunderstand, you know, how the application of sets, how we go about the process of it. What should we be really looking at in terms of?
Well, I think the biggest issue, to be honest with you, particularly if you're talking about Lao and probably other styles that are quite prolific, like Wing Chun, for instance, if you're talking about that, which is why you end up with all these different Wing Chun, Wing Sun, and all this kind of thing, is because they end up having to learn, or sometimes they learn from courses or whatever. They've been on a course or they've had an instructor and they no longer have their instructor. They have to start applying it in their own way.
Right.
And figuring out how things work. And of course, that's when it goes to pot, because a lot of people have absolutely no, you know, idea of which direction to go. And
what do you mean? What do you mean? Which direction?
Well, I'm talking about, you know, how they don't analyze it scientifically. They just use it as an excuse. The move is this. Oh, you've got to do it my way. Oh, boom. And, you know, and then people can't make it work because simply they're different people, you know, so you do this and it's this way, or do you do it this way, or this way, or you do it this way. And they think it is a different thing and they try to analyze it as a different thing. But remember, the funny thing about martial arts is that, as you see, all around, lots of people, they learn a style or they learn a set.
Yeah.
The next thing you want to do is learn the next set. Next thing you want to do is learn another style, another style, another style. So it's human nature that they then try to search outward for new things rather than utilize the things they have. Right. That's the point. They don't, and that's what I mean. They don't see see the wood for the trees.
Right. So you're talking about looking inside your own style now.
Training.
Training. All right.
Training and having good instruction.
Right.
And I think that's important. Two of those things that's obviously important. Those are the two things that are lacking, I think, today. And that's the unfortunate thing. And you can't blame any specific type of person. It's going to be, you know, that kind of thing throughout martial arts now. You know, genuine martial arts is very hard to come by.
It's dying. Now, do you think that that's just a impatient thing on behalf of the students, or do you think it's a problem with the instruction, or the way this whatever style they're doing? Because look, I know this happens within Lao Gar. I know there are people doing Lao Gar who, you know, don't work.
What's it for? Well, of course. Well, you've got people who've left Lao Gar who then say, "Oh, Lao Gar are just made up." Yeah. Well, if it's made up, well, why do you want to keep calling it Lao Gar for then?
But whatever. We're talking about the techniques and the way people.
This is the point. They try to apply the techniques and say this is that style. This is the style. This is how we do this style. But they still don't know how to do the style. Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting. But I'm not going to go back into all the crap that we've been.
When we talk about styles as well, this is what I want you to sort of clarify. You know, are we talking about styles, or are we talking about a movement within the context of Chinese martial art? Whether you call it Tan Sao in Wing Chun or Beauty Looks in the Mirror, it's the same move. Yeah. So what makes Wing Chun different to Lao Gar? You know,
it's the preferences of the people that train it, or the people rather that teach it. Right. You have it's like any business, you know, or any kind of sport, if you like. There are some people that are going to prefer, depending on their size and weight, to go in one direction or another. Someone is going to be a sprinter, someone is going to be a jogger, someone is going to be, you know, a long distance runner. You know, it's just their makeup, it's what they prefer. And the techniques in all those things are pretty much the same.
They are pretty much
you
across
move
the board.
your legs,
and your hands.
And so, and you breathe in a different way, and you do this in a different way, and that in a different way, and you set off in a different way, but they're all running. But people then go, well, wait a minute, you know, jogging's the best, you know, I can jog forever, you know, and then another guy goes, well, sprinting's the best, I can really, you know, I can get some speed up, I can, you know, world records, of course. I mean, humans by nature are meant to jog, they're meant to run. The idea, did you know humans can actually outrun horses?
What?
Yeah. Because horses can only run for a certain period of time.
Oh.
Whereas humans can run for pretty much ever. And if, you know, not me.
Not me.
But that's what they were designed to do. They are predatory, aren't they? So they wouldn't, they're not big enough or strong enough or armed enough in that time to actually run something down, but they just keep running till it's dead, you know, till it's tired, and then they can kill it.
Oh.
They just keep running and running and running. They could go for days.
Wow.
Until they catch it, you know, and that's why they're trackers.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
so they just keep, they might not catch it for a while, but they'll eventually catch up with it because it'll stop. Because obviously if they're not behind it, it'll stop.
Yeah.
Then they'll catch up with it. It starts running again. Eventually it's just knackered.
Who are those guys? Who are those guys? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Just
but
interesting.
But isn't it? But
I have to be careful when I make these little points of history and stuff, because, you know, I get commented on a lot about history because
that's right.
It's only what I read.
What was the latest one? What did that guy say on?
Well, I haven't checked it up yet, and give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know, because I just.
Oh, that's right.
It came out of my memory. It was about, well, was it Genghis Khan or was it Alfred
Alexander the Great?
Alexander the Great, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who fought the Romans, because the Romans didn't bother fighting them. They couldn't win. So they just kept, you know, just moving every time they went to set up a battle. They just moved and they got fed up.
I think you got a lot of stuff going on around in your head, old man. I think, you know,
Christ, yeah.
It's hard to hit the mark every time.
I know. So, I apologize to him if I'm wrong, but who gives us? Okay, because it wasn't the point. It wasn't an issue. It was just, it wasn't relative who it was.
No, it was
in the conversation.
It was the thought that counts.
Yeah. But I tried to make it interesting, and you know.
What else did you say? You came out with something as well. You were talking about. Oh God, I wish I'd have read the comment now. God, I remembered it. Oh well, I'll come back to it. But that was interesting.
I can't remember.
No. Anyway, not important. Right. Anyway, back on track. So we've established that the movements generally across the board in Chinese Kung Fu are pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. So we're dealing with the way we perceive them, the way we taught them, the way we choose to learn them. And if we choose to look sort of inward and really train it, analyze it, science. Use the word, they're not very scientific. What does being scientific mean when we're talking about analyzing sets? What can you put your finger on it? Can you just maybe give some insight?
It's got to be the fastest possible way of doing a specific movement.
But why does that make it scientific? Could you elaborate more for
the whole science of martial arts is to win, isn't it? And to win, you need to be the fastest. Now, you can be more powerful, but we always ask people when they come, what's the most important thing, speed or power? And I think we can pretty much suggest that it might be speed, simply because of the fact that not everybody is a huge, big, fat guy, you know, who's capable of, you know, massive energy. And if he can, you know, beat everybody, then, you know, those kind of guys dominate. Well, there are a lot of small people who can actually perform some extremely good techniques. You talked about earlier, I think before we were talking on this, you were talking about you know, big guys making, you know, big techniques and all this kind of thing, and you know, like MMA fighting and that sort of thing. You're saying, what do they?
Right. So the example I used, God, we're like a ping pong, we're ping, 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 going everywhere. The example I used, that's true. The thing I used was I found a video of a very sort of famous MMA fighter called Baz Rutten, right?
Yeah.
Now, Baz Rutten was talking about what's a really, this guy says to Baz Rutten, what's a really good technique that I can use? And he just plucked one out of the top of his head. He went, okay, so I'm going to do what we would call a yoke punch. I haven't got a lot of room here, but, you're striking, with your forearm.
That way,
around.
or upwards.
Yeah. So we would call that a yoke punch in traditional Kung Fu. And you see it in a lot of styles. Like, it's big. It's a big movement, isn't it? And anybody... Choi foot. Anybody who sees that technique... is going to go, anyone who doesn't know sort of the context is going to go, no, that's useless. But in fact, let's watch the video. I'll show you what I mean. This is Baz Rutten just demonstrating this technique, all right?
Ready? Okay. As you can see, I would like to have somebody kick here and see if you can move that bag the same amount.
Go for it.
I'll try. It's hard because it's on the floor as well. But you literally lift somebody. You can put your whole body weight in there.
See what I mean? Point made. So
there
he
you
was
are,
using...
So someone's using a traditional technique.
Right. But...
as if they've reinvented it, or if they're inventing it.
Right. Now,
but saying, look how good this is.
Yeah, but now everybody has gone, and I love Baz Rutten. I really like him. He's a great, funny guy. But everyone's now gone, that's a legitimate technique now. That's legitimate because Baz Rutten used it. And Baz Rutten has had so many blah, blah. But he didn't invent the technique. He's just saying, it's kind of good.
Nor has he claimed, nor has he claimed to. That's to be fair. But the point made, this is why traditional martial arts, Kung Fu, get a bad rap, because people don't understand it. But I can understand people looking at it, some guy teaching a Choi Li foot form and blah, blah, and then going, oh, that's not going to work in a fight. Yeah, that's right. Well, they see people who are fighting all the time. They rely on the fact that they have a reputation of fighting and mostly winning.
Yeah.
And so therefore they go, well, they're proven technicians, but the thing, it isn't about them as individuals being proven technicians. If we're talking about science, it's about the science they use.
Yes.
And if they're now applying sciences that have existed for thousands of years, then what difference are they in it? Is it? Because as long as you keep the science, someone comes along who wants to fight. Someone comes along who doesn't want to fight but can teach it.
Yeah.
So it continues and continues. I mean, I know a technique, a real, technique that would really have someone in a ring on the floor. It's called a kick in the nuts.
Whoa! We've seen this. How many times has an MMA match had to stop because someone contravened the rules and low blow.
Accidentally kicked him
in the nuts. Oh, time out.
So stop. The guy who wants to fight, the guy's prepared to go in and fight.
Yeah.
He's got no fear. He's going for it. And that's commendable as an individual.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't prove the science.
No.
The science was there all the time. The kick in the nuts is proven science. You just don't put it in an MMA fight because the fight won't last very long.
Yeah, but this is what I think as well. I think when we're looking, I don't think any individual represents a style. I think an individual could teach the science of a style, but can't represent a style in terms of if they fight someone and they lose, oh, see, your style's crap. No, because when you're looking at fighting, it's an individual thing. Right.
And it's a thing in the moment as well. They make a single mistake.
Exactly.
They're tired.
Right.
They lose concentration. Right. A hand happens to be in the wrong place.
At the wrong time.
See something coming.
Yep.
They just happen to do something that they didn't expect the other guy to be in a different place. He falters. He falls. The referee's in the way. He's too close to the ring. There's all sorts too close to the side of the ring. You understand? And there's too many things there.
There is, and that is in a controlled environment as well.
Yes.
So I've never subscribed to the individual represents the style.
No?
Never. I don't believe that, because fighting is an individual thing.
That's why when someone comes to you and says, "Oh, you're talking bad about my style, I'm going to come and prove it to you." Well, no, you're not going to prove anything about your style.
You're just going to prove about you.
That's it. You got some, issues.
I get these messages from time to time, viewers. I won't lie. I won't lie. It's all in a day's work, But very interesting. But so going back to talking about the science and how we analyze forms, because we are everywhere. It's important that maybe it's a hard question for you to answer, but maybe what would your process be? Say I've just found out this amazing technique. It's brilliant. It's amazing. I'll teach it you, Steve. So I teach you this amazing technique. What would your process be trying to decipher this technique as to whether or not be any use to you? What would you start by thinking of?
How fast is it?
Right.
How it's going to affect you anatomically. In other words, is it going to hurt you when you hit someone?
Right.
Because a lot of the time people come with great ideas. They go, "I'm going to do this with my fingers," and then you see the way their fingers are formed, and you think, "No, you're not. You're going to break your fingers." Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this grab. I'm going to do that grab. I mean, you've seen it in tiger's claw, haven't you? When they have their thumb like that. Instead of actually at instead there. Yeah. So they have their finger like that, and they go, "Ooh," or whatever they do, and their thumbs like that. So, yeah, there you go.
That's it.
And that's it. And you go, what's that for? And they go, "Well, this is going to claw you or whatever. Well, what's your thumb going to do? It's going to be in the way of the claws." No, unless it's actually out there to claw or out there to grab.
Right.
So it needs to be actually wanting to grab. So if you're going to grab. If you're going to claw. But what's that for? What's that going to do? It's just going to get hurt.
Not going to do much.
Yeah, the only use of it there is if you're hitting something with the side, and then it's out the way.
Yeah, right.
And that's it. But people see that. Oh, I'm going to do that. And then And by the way, this is what's it called in a movie? This hand. It's not my hand.
What? I don't know.
This has been edited in afterwards, just in case anyone says I'm wrong. Look at that hand. That's
keep the elbow low, then I could.
It's
Sorry. So go on. You're looking at the anatomy.
Looking. Will it hurt them rather than hurt the target? Will it reach the target? Is it powerful enough to do anything? What is the target? What is the proposed target?
Yeah.
And how fast can it be done? And where can in what framework, in what kind of position can you be in when you do it? So does it work against certain things? Where would you do it? Why would you do it?
Yeah,
and so on.
Quite sort of discerning.
It's a technique should be open to be any kind of interpretation, as long as it's got to work. That's all. But that don't work for any reason except, as I said, for that. So don't bloody come with that and say it's a claw.
Right.
But that's just an example of when you say, you can go sometimes and you see Tai Chi and you see people doing Tai Chi and they go, and they're not doing this kind of thing with energy and whatever.
Okay.
So what you see is they go like this, and when they do this, you go, well, that's not going to work. Now, that's no disrespect to them. They're not interested in maybe a traditional or a martial concept.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do Tai Chi, then by definition, it's a martial art, and then otherwise you may as well just be going like this. Doing
That's John Travolta, isn't it?
Yeah, you may as well just in it. You may as well just do that,
right? Because
any movements then you can do, okay, and just swing your arms around and whatever. That's fine, but it's not Tai Chi. So when people do that, that's not Tai Chi. So the Tai Chi has to have some kind of formal, preparation,
right?
And it's a power development.
It's a discerning guy, right? But you can look at it and you can say, just like bad acting, oh, that's bad acting. That ain't gonna work, or that's not correct. I don't do Tai Chi, but then
that's right.
You know, I can appreciate what the intention of it is. If you're trying to create power,
yeah, you've got to create energy. You've got to be in a position where you can, or where you can. Remember, it's not about one technique; it's about what follows it. Often, you're not doing a technique to end all techniques. It's never like that. It's can you do that? Then can you do that? Then can you do that? You know, you're moving and flowing all the time because the person is constant. Yeah. The person you're fighting is constant, which is why when you see these adverts, the thing you sent me the other day, you know, when the guy punches once and then the other goes go da 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 da. No. The guy's just standing there. What's that about?
That was American Kendo.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, I'll play the video right now. Right, so there you go. So that was American Kempo. Now, I've got a question. How much fluff was on that guy's shoulder that he required him to just do all this? I don't know. But that's not changed since the bloody 1960s, 70s, I'm sure of it. I've seen old videos of like Benny Ukides doing Kempo, doing exactly the same stuff. You know, and it's just like, how many times have you got to hit someone and then stand still? I mean, seriously. But you see, for me, I look at that and I go, right, okay, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to create combinations and trying to think about the flow of your techniques, but you're only thinking about the flow of your techniques. They're not thinking of
the responses or the consequences of their techniques.
No.
If you punch someone in the face you plan on hurting them, then their head's going to go back or it's going to go to the side or whatever.
Right.
And if it does, well, you're going to be, you know, then countering it in a different direction completely. Yeah, I remember a street fight like that, actually.
Well, what were you?
Yeah, he was a road rage person.
All right, what happened? Go on.
He just got out of his car. You know, we'd been flashing and he'd been, you know, brake checking me and all that kind of thing. I brake checked him.
Yeah.
And when we got down to a right turn lane, the lights were red, and he got out of his car. And of course, I wouldn't sit in the car.
Yeah.
He got out of the car and walked straight up to me, and because it was kind of a spontaneous reaction, I guess.
Yeah.
And as he came towards me, I just kicked him in the groin. And when
hang on. He was just going to say, "Mate, your tail lights out."
Well, this is the thing, you see. This is the thing, because I was with a girlfriend, right? And I had my glasses on and everything. And of course, I kicked him in the groin. And then his head went down, so I punched him in the face. His head went up, so I punched downwards. And then he went sideways, and I punched that way. And then he went that way, so I went that way. You know, it was kind of boom, 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 boom kind of thing. And that was kind of enough.
Right.
And he says, he says to me, he goes, in the middle of that, at the end of that, right, straight away, he goes, "Why did you stop?" And I thought, why did I stop hitting you? Or why did I stop the car? And I couldn't figure it out, you know. So anyway, he goes, I just screamed at him to get back in his car.
Yeah.
And of course he did. He got back in his car. And then I got back into the car, and my girlfriend says, I think he just wanted to tell you your lights weren't working. And straight away, and in my head, I'm going, is that true? The worst thing is, of course, that my glasses had fell off. They were under the car. Are you dying?
No. Did you hear that cough then?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I muted it. I didn't know. Sorry.
Okay, so well, that's editing for you. That's your editing.
That's my editing.
Anyway, my glasses were under the car, and I went to drive off, and I realised I hadn't got my glasses. So we're there. He's sitting behind me in his car, and I'm sitting there, the lights changing.
You're
and
I'm
looking for my glasses on, and then of course I go, and I was on my way to the Bridge North Club, and no, it was just one of those things. I've experienced a lot of that because being a lorry driver and that you see a lot of that kind of thing, driving at night as well.
Yeah.
And that's where most of my fighting kind of experience has come from.
Is it because you're cutting people up in your lorry?
It's because I'm a useless driver. I'm a useless driver. I go out to someone here in Canada and they just drove off because they're very good. They don't do road rage.
You're in Canada now.
They don't even honk. They don't even honk. I have to lean over and honk for the student. But of course I can't do that because it just embarrasses the student.
Oh,
But I have been passed with me finger up a couple of times, but no, I'm a terrible, terrible driver.
and yet
when I'm on
you
my own.
instruct driving.
I know.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
I know. It's but
There was a point.
The thing is,
there was a point.
well, the point is well, you learn from your mistakes. You learn, and I think someone who's had the experience is able to teach, but you've got to know how to teach too. So there's a lot of fighters out there who are extremely good fighters,
Yeah.
but they couldn't teach for toffee because
Yeah.
their intention is to fight.
Yes.
Now, I'm not talking. So I have no real fighting experience in a ring. Just semi-contact competitions and like continuous competitions and stuff like that, but no real. I've never done full. You did some full contact, but no, it's just these people are out there to prove themselves, and really, most people like you and I want to do is just defend ourselves.
Yeah, you see, and
there's a total difference to that.
No, but there's a point you said a while back, and you said the intention of the technique was you want to win, don't you? You want to win. And I kind of think, well, no,
you want to end the fight, but
I don't want to lose. That's
right.
my thing. I don't want to lose.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So there's a difference.
That is what we've always said. It's not. One person wants to win, and other people they just don't want to lose.
Well, yeah, but I always think there's two kinds of people. You've got like you said, you've got fighters, but I will tend to refer to them as sort of competitive types. You've got competitive fighters.
Well, not just that, but sometimes
with a competitive mentality, right, in the martial arts. And then you've got coaches, right? So forget, I'm just talking about the two types of people very common in martial arts. So you've got the competitive fighters, then you've got the coaches, and the competitive fighters are very, very, very singular. They've got a direction. They want to win. They want to do this. They'll do that. Whereas the coaches, on the other hand, they'll want to sort of guide you through a process, not that necessarily works for them, because these coaches understand that everyone is different, all the rest of it. Whereas competitive people, they tend to base a lot of their teaching. Yeah, competitive people tend to base a lot of what they're teaching on their own
experience,
version,
which sometimes is no use to anyone else.
Right, it isn't, because
it may be something that works for them.
Yeah, because they might be really, really flexible and be able to kick someone in the head. Or,
in fact, what you'll find is someone who does a lot of fighting will find someone who becomes a good fighter, and they will warm to them far more than anyone who struggles. So
yes,
you'll find that this person then becomes like a mini-me of them.
Yes.
And starts to do similar kind of techniques. And of course, they take them everywhere. They coach them. They see them as potential winners.
Yeah.
And that's all they want to do is coach them. The rest of the class is just financing it.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the sad thing about, fighter coaches, if you like. But not all fighter coaches are like that. Of course, some people do it because they like the sport and they'll get into it and they're willing. You've also got people, of course, who are not great coaches and not particularly great fighters, but they've got this spirit that they just won't be beat. They'll just do everything they can.
Yeah.
They'll go absolutely crazy
Mongo.
to win.
Mongo.
If you like.
Mongo? Yeah, that's it.
If you like.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Interesting. Can we just shift it back on to linking the sets? Okay, so... we've kind of established, you've given some criteria for what you're going to look at if you're trying to analyze the sets, analyze a technique from whatever style or system it is. When we look at the Laugar sets, then most commonly people are going to say, well, all the sets look on the surface aesthetically different. First set is done in a horse riding stance. Second set, you're up high, stood in, in a sheep shearing stance. The third set, it includes movement, shuffles, dropping, kneeling down. The fourth set, you're jumping up and you're kneeling down, you're punching, you're doing all these elaborate
cross-legged.
things. Right, and the fifth set, my God, the fifth set, it goes really slow. It's like Tai Chi, you know, and the sixth set, you know, again, a plethora of moves. The seventh set, again.
Big exaggerated motion.
Right, okay. So what is it? So when you've got, people who turn around and say, oh, you know, Logar's made up, look at all the sets are different. I can't help but think that they are stunted in their growth of understanding martial art just because of the perception they have. But so can we just make a point as to why sets look different? Perhaps you've already made this point, and perhaps I'm going over old ground. But you know, just let's be clear.
Well, let's just look. I'll give you an analogy using the ABC concept that we use a lot.
Yeah.
How many vowels are there?
A, E, I, O, U. 5.
5. Do they all sound the same?
A, E, I, O, U. No.
So why do we need 5 of them? Yeah, because they're all different.
Right.
But together, they give you
words.
The alphabet.
Yeah.
The sound.
Yeah. Okay.
Without them, you cannot speak the language.
Yes. Right. Okay.
So how is it that why do we need the sets to all look the same and be the same in order for the set to progress?
Well, I think that's human.
It doesn't make sense.
I think that's human beings trying to sort of, you know, apply some sort of, you know, rule to the process of learning martial arts, or it just doesn't compute. It's got to look the same, you know?
Why is it?
I don't know, but, you know, we're getting
when
this
you
a
look
lot.
but when you look into them, we've already said the movements are the same. Look at Fei Long Chi. Look at the first set. Look at the second set and look at Fei Long Chi.
That's the fifth set. Fei Long Chi is the
fifth set. Sorry, which set? Which one did I call it?
You just called it Fei Long Chi. What I'm saying is people don't know. That's the fifth set.
I said, look at. Oh, I apologize. Yeah. Okay. For those who don't know, Fei Long Chi is the fifth set. Is that all right?
That's fine.
And the second set is John Sao, and the first set is Kebun Safar.
Yeah.
And they're all different, but they've all got the same kind of movements. And in the second set, there it is. Oh, sorry, it's on its own. There, that movement. You see that movement there?
Yeah.
Never mind that movement. What about that movement? And then when you look at it in Fei Long Chi, oh, boom. Oh, look, the next movement, exactly the bloody same.
Right.
And then they're telling me it's not the same set. No, it's the same move, or rather the same, you know, style.
So why do you think they're getting confused?
Because they're not bloody training.
Is it right? Okay. Right.
Because they're not digesting it.
Right.
They're looking elsewhere. They're always going into some other style. They're always going to, you know, and it's not necessarily their fault as long as they're training. If they are training, they're not interpreting it, possibly because they haven't got a teacher who can interpret it.
Right.
Maybe it's because they're too far away from teachers who can interpret it.
Right.
So, you know, maybe they have to travel in order to get training. Maybe, you know, there's all sorts of reasons why people can't understand a style. And that's why, I mean, if you look at the music industry, how many of those people can you call artists? Some of them are just do their own thing. Some of them can't sing for toffee. Some of them can't play for toffee, but they call themselves musicians. Doesn't make them musicians. And then there are people who make an awful lot of money from being good or being bad. They're not necessarily good musicians. They just happen to be vogue at the time. And then you take a look at people right in the dregs of society who are fantastic guitarists, fantastic singers, but they've never progressed because they've never had that opportunity. So the world of martial arts is exactly the same. It's just the same. There are some very skillful people out there who have never been noticed. And then there are people who are less skillful. When they look at an association and the association goes, oh, you're so powerful. So you've got a big name. You've got a big following. I'm going to make you a high grade in our association. There you go. There's an award. And now they have to recognize that association. Right. By definition, the association then say, oh, you know, this guy is an 8th Dan.
Are we talking about someone specific here, or
well, we had that argument. We had that discussion on online with someone once. You know, right. But I'm just making the point that grades are not the issue, right? It's in because I mean, some people. Well, I'll give you an example, right? And Nastia won't mind me saying this, but in 1991, when I was at the World Championships, Nastia was called up on the stage and awarded a 10th Dan.
What?
In kickboxing.
In kickboxing?
Yeah.
Has he ever?
Why?
Has he ever done kickbooks?
No, he wasn't even bothered about it. But the point is, you see, what does it make the association then?
Well, by association.
By association. Yes, by association.
Right.
They give out the certificate, and now by association, that association has top guys in it.
I tell you what. I'm always
And that's
wary.
how it works.
I'm always wary of people when they get to sort of 8.
When they come
ninth,
back and they
10th.
and their 10th dance, and they
Oh, what?
and then of course they start their own associations and make, oh wait a minute, everyone's getting up now, I think I'm going to start grading myself. I wonder if I've got any mates who can, you know, verify that, who can say, oh yeah, I know this. If I say they're good and they say I'm good, then you know we're good.
Pat you on the back. Pat you on the back.
Yeah.
And
that's the problem with grades.
Are we talking about politics in martial arts? Surely not. Surely not. Something
those
as
are
pure,
the very people.
Something as pure as martial arts has no
those
politics.
are the very people who say no politics, join our organization, no politics, we don't interfere with your gradings, we don't do this. And then you get to a certain stage and you look around and wait a minute, he's just giving himself a 9th dan.
Yeah.
Why is he giving himself a 9th dan? Oh, because he's grading everybody and they're getting a bit high. So I think it's time to get one.
They're the same people who own have a licensing, company as well. You know, they start up their own licensing company because we don't like politics. No, it's not politics.
It's just money.
Just money now. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And that's where martial arts has gone, I'm afraid.
Oh, it's
people are either going to learn martial arts and be martial artists, or they're just going to be entrepreneurs. And there are some good martial artists who are entrepreneurs, but there are some very good martial artists who have absolutely no interest in entrepreneurial ideas.
Unfortunately, though, we do have to sort of concede that, you know, in order to promote and help salvage what you've got, you do have to sort of
you have to have an entrepreneurial attitude.
Tendency,
Yes, that's absolutely true, and that's why it's dying, because unfortunately a lot of people, good people, are just not entrepreneurial, and it is a shame. So if they lead like that, they're going to lose people who are. And associations die because of that. And you end up with all this, I'll make it up as I go along now. And because they've got more money than their instructor, they tend to think that, they can now say what they want, do what they want.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Oh, we know from personal experience. But no, interesting. Would you like to see a real, dodgy training video of a Wing Chun guy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, look at this, and you tell me. Look at this, and you tell me what's wrong with it. Right. So I don't know what it was I just saw then, but I can't stand people like that. I bloody hate people like that.
You saw a guy who just absolutely loves himself.
Yeah.
But doesn't give a toss about his students. He's just there in front of the camera trying to prove. He's not even keeping to the rules.
No.
He just, he's training with them, and then he's the only one with gloves on, and they can't hit him. So how do they feel about hitting him? Well, they don't want to hit him because they haven't got gloves on. So, he's happy. So then he's block, 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 bang, bang, bang. And then a kick comes in. Oh, I thought they were doing sticky hands.
Well, Jesus. Yeah, well, this is just I can't stand people like that. I really don't. Taking the piss. They're taking the piss out their students just to look good. Yeah. Just to look good. And I don't know.
He's not doing it for his students. He's one of those doing it just to be important and maybe, a few quid on the side.
No, it just annoys me that.
He's not a martial artist. He's an ignorant.
No, that just bloody annoys me. That I found that the other day. I said, oh, God's sake, what do you gain by doing that? What does your student gain?
Absolutely
nothing.
Nothing.
Just go like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
God's sake, you know.
They gain a squint.
Yeah, I mean,
from then on, it's like
flinch response. You need to go and do fract, my friend. Control that flinch response, boy. Jesus. Yeah, no, it's very sad. I mean, there's been a lot of people who've crossed our paths, you know, who have had this kind of attitude in a class as well, and they've kind of gone, they kind of have the attitude, well, you know, training's got to be more realistic. So, you know, if, for example, right, if you're trying to, I don't know, let's pluck something. Let's try to teach someone, say, a wrist lock, right? You're trying to teach them, okay, all right, it's a bit of anatomy, blah, 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 blah. You know, this is how you do it. And now, right, I'll do it on you. And they're stiff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, in the street, I wouldn't do it, would I? I wouldn't do it. And you're kind of like, no, I'm trying to train, I'm trying to show, I'm trying to demonstrate, you know, a bit of anatomy here. Yeah, but it doesn't work. See, what you've done is rubbish. It's like, well, I probably wouldn't do that, would I? Eh? You know, do you know what I mean? Like, isn't
it's
this
the same? Yeah, we used to teach a thing. Unfortunately, we don't teach it anymore for one reason or another, James. The hair grab.
Oh, God. Listen, I've still got a bit. I've still got my troops are in reserve. They're all back here.
Yeah, the last time I did a hair grab on you, it's still in the cupboard. Yeah, so they grab the hair and you pull their arm down like that, and then you grab the throat and all that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
A typical hair grabbing from the front technique, like self-defense thing.
Yeah.
You do that, and you always demonstrate it two ways, and you say, okay, this is how to prevent someone or control someone who's pulling your hair and so on like that. And they like that, and they get the idea of how to actually work anatomy and get the idea of anatomical, you know, joints, etc.
Right.
But I always say a thing. Okay, so basically, you could, if you wanted to. Okay, so I get someone to grab the hair. They go to grab my hair, and I just go boom and just punch them in the ribs, and I don't hurt them. But you know, I mean, some people like to.
Yeah.
And but the point is, you just stick a knuckle in the ribs, and of course they can't grab the hair anymore. Right. So if they go to grab your hair, boom, you're going to hit them. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
As far as that part of the situation is concerned.
Yeah.
Rather than do the whole thing where you grab the hair, you put your head down, you pull their elbow in, you push forward.
Yeah.
Their hand then becomes kind of stuck like so, and then you're taking their throat and taking them to the ground. You know, whatever. Now, martial arts teaches the whole vocabulary. You've got to learn everything. Then the simplistic things, they're obviously easier.
You can't speak slang without knowing proper English.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think that's a really good example.
So you know, but this is one of the things that I think a lot of people are going to pick up on traditional martial arts. Well, why'd you do that? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You know, you could.
Yeah, and then they reinvented a bit later on.
Yeah, with a yoke punch. Yeah. No, but
well, we're talking about that hair grab and stuff like that. And then if you want to interpret that into jiu-jitsu, what do? They're on the floor, rolling around, getting them grabbing, pulling them down, getting them to a different position. You know, and then are they going to say, "Oh, that's not going to work. That's not going to work"? Well, what if you did this? What if you did that? Well, there's lots of ways out of everything, isn't there?
Yeah.
It all depends on whether the person knows it or not, whether he's strong enough or not, or whether he's fit enough or not. Yeah. So it's in the end, it's an individual personal thing.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult, situation to try to envisage, if you like. I don't know.
No, it is. It's hard. It's hard to present traditional martial arts in a modern context, you know.
Yeah, and we have to wait for people who don't do martial arts to present it. And say, oh, look, I've just invented this.
Yeah.
Or this is a good idea.
Because it all comes around.
And then when they do that, you go, yeah. And then you go, oh, yeah, well, that's a great idea. It's only been around for 2,000 years.
Well, that's it. You know, you'd think that during the 2,000 years that, you know, maybe someone somewhere would have, I've used it. But no, I've invented it. You know, Jesus Christ. Oh, UFC has reinvented fighting since 1993. Okay.
You still get kicked in the nuts and collapse.
Well, this is, and it's like, but it's the name, isn't it? It's ultimate. So, it's not that. Listen, I'll be frank with you. As a sport, I'm not the greatest fan of UFC, but I quite happily watch it, and I'll take it for what it is. It's a sport, but that's all it is. It's a sport, And I think, but we have to be honest, right? How many traditional martial art people, well, this isn't designed for use in the tournament or in the ring. It's too deadly, and that's when they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because but on one hand, it may not be suitable for use in a ring, not because it's too deadly, but because they haven't trained.
Exactly. That's the
ring.
Point. It's got nothing to do with the techniques at all.
No.
It's got to do with how much training you've done for the ring. And someone who wants to participate in a ring fight, in example, a UFC fight, someone who wants to do that will obviously, put themselves out in order to practice. But they may not practice enough, and they may well lose. But they've got the gall, and they've got the guts, they've got the vinegar to do it.
Yeah, right.
But if they, so what if they don't? But what if they're in a bar one day and someone surrounds them, or someone takes them outside or threatens them? How are they going to react then? That's down to an individual, you see. And that doesn't make any difference whether he knows martial arts or not. He's got a better chance of winning if he understands. But otherwise, no.
Yeah.
So, it's that's the kind of person I want to see. The person in the bar.
Right.
I like to watch Scott Atkins in the bar fights in the movies. I like to watch Jason Statham in the bar in movies. I love that kind of fighting. Love it. And yes, before you go on, I know it's made up. I know it's prepared. I know it's rehearsed, but it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's a lovely atmosphere.
Did I sent you ages ago when I was trying to build bridges with the Wing Chun Club in London,
right,
on Instagram. So they posted on Instagram this video of we're talking similar sort of lines as what we're talking. Anyway, they posted a picture of a Wing Chun guy versus a boxer, right? And I think the Wing Chun guy had sort of claimed that, nothing can beat the straight punch. Nothing can beat the straight punch. And of course, boxers being boxer, right? Okay. We'll have a little contest. And what did the Wing Chun guy agree to do? Fight a boxer in a boxing ring, right? So he did. Right? As it pop, 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 like that, right? Like Ip Man. Right. Anyway, so it was London Wing Chun who posted this video, and the guy who does it is quite a nice guy, actually. He's quite good, does some good videos. But he just posted a video, kind of condemning this Wing Chun guy a bit, saying, why would you do it? What's your thoughts? And I replied. I said, I don't normally reply, but I said this, and let's see if we can make some sense of it. I said this fight has got nothing to do with proving whether or not the Wing Chun fighting science works. I said it's been around for a long time, so it's safe to say it does. But more to do with the hubris of the Wing Chun practitioner who actually thinks he is prepared to fight on the same terms as a boxer. You talk about distance, timing, and footwork, etc., because the guy mentioned, it was his distance, time, and footwork, right? You talk about distance, time, footwork, etc., and yes, you're 100% right, but you missed out stealth and cunning. Wing Chun, like most traditional arts, works as a response, not as a contest. Not knowing what the other guy not knowing the other guy can defend himself does have its advantages. If you're fighting within a set of rules, for example, boxing or MMA, then you are already in the fight. And the person who trains, with those rules at the forefront has the advantage. Why did the Wing Chun guy agree to the contest, knowing he had not trained for it? Why did he not use kicks? Why stand in a fighting stance? Why wear gloves? Etc., etc. If you're going to accept somebody else's rules, then bloody well train for it. Sadly, this outcome is nothing new, but I fear too many Donnie Yen movies and not enough training is to blame. And that's my response.
I've seen people doing Tai Chi who've made a claim and answered a claim to a guy who's a kickboxer or whatever and said, Tai Chi is better, and then they've gone and stuck a pair of gloves on. Well, they've stuck themselves straight away, isn't it?
Yes.
That's like putting gloves on a cat.
Don't knock cat-style kung fu. Okay, it works. It's real. Yes. I've seen it in American magazines, but yeah.
Oh, I know.
It's that
But that's what exactly what it is. It's a silly thing to do.
Yeah.
You cannot do it. I mean, you go into a fight with MMA fight. If you've got the same vinegar, if you've got the same stealth, the same, willingness to fight, as many of these people have, but they just haven't trained for it.
Yeah.
If they train for it as well, and then in addition, they just say, well, wait a minute, I'm not taking those rules. Thank you very much. I'll fight by my rules. You can fight by your rules, and let's see what happens. And then it's not a fair contest anymore.
No, it's not.
And so people don't agree to it most of the time.
Yeah. But we always hark on about this, and it's true, but we always do. Now, do you not think that some people out there kind of go, yeah, but that's just an excuse for, why,
Of course they do. Of course they do. Of course they do. And it's, in some ways they're right. Of course, people just don't train hard enough, for that kind of thing. So, it's a world apart. It's a world apart. Would you see anyone who trained to do hip hop go and do a ballet?
I would pay money for that. That would be pretty good.
Yeah,
electric boogalooing.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't last 5 minutes.
No, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't last 5 minutes. So it's it's the kind of thing that you're talking about there. That's the kind of thing. Sometimes there are people who've got such skill, and we always talk about fighting as a skill. We always talk about people in boxing rings who can fight really well, or in various other different formats and can fight very well. But it's the world over. It's the same as anything. If you can, you'll get people who can do archery, and they'd be fantastic standing that archery, with the target, 25, 50 yards away or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll fire that bow, and then they'll go over to Mongolia, and you'll watch people do exactly the same thing on a bloody horseback. And then you try doing it, see what happens. You're going to fall off the horse before you hit anything. So and that's saddled us, you know what I mean? So don't tell me that you can, just because you can fire a bow, that you can do, horseback archery. You cannot.
No.
So this is the kind of thing we're talking about. It doesn't make them bad archers.
No.
It makes them bad horsemen. And because they never trained it.
Right. Okay.
And that's the way, when you talk about boxers and when you talk about a martial artist doing a completely different thing, don't put yourself on the horse.
No.
Because you are going to fall off big time.
Well, I like that. Don't put yourself on the horse. I want to remember that. That's a good one. One of many things. Yeah. No, it's amazing, the perception, but the perception is, it's all the same. It's fighting. You got to be,
It's archery. It's the same. It's got to hit the target.
Yeah.
How can you hit the target if it's moving like that?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I've been doing, as you know, lately, I've been dabbling. Did you know? I've been dabbling in a bit of jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Did you know this?
Yes, I do know this. Many of our viewers and listeners won't.
No. So let's be clear. So I've been studying with one of one of the Lao Guardians, bit of jiu-jitsu, and he kind of, and he's really good, really good. He's very, very adept at it, right? But he can't, and it's not a but as in, I don't like it, because I genuinely do. It's a new dynamic for me, per se. It's just another avenue up the hill. The view from the top is still the same, but it's just another avenue. Something that I've not really. I had a bit of experience in judo in the army, just a bit, nothing much, but it's different. So, is it? But he kind of suggested, very friendly like, that I was perhaps trying to incorporate jiu-jitsu into my kung fu, which won't work. What do we think of that?
Well, you're not trying to. You don't need to.
Why not?
It's all, as far as I'm concerned, it's a whole style. So no matter what happens, and I've had this discussion with him before, and it does. You know, at the end of the day, when you are in a fight, we always talk about these people who stand there and throw the punch and then just wait to get hit.
Yes.
You know, so the attacker throws a punch, stands there and waits to get hit. Well,
yes,
that's not going to happen, is it? He can punch, and then as soon as you throw a technique, he's going to try to do something else,
Yeah.
So your intention really is to do the strike, you know, to sort of at least get him to pay attention to that strike for a second, giving you the chance to get in and finish the fight. You need either by injuring some target or harming some target, which, you know, depending on the severity of the attack, you know, whether you go for his eyes, or you're going to kick him in the groin, or you're going to, you know, punch him in the throat or whatever, depending on the severity of the attack and the type of attacker. Or, you know, you might just try to control them. But then either way, you've got to try to finish the fight by bringing it to the ground. You know, my forte throughout my career of Kung Fu was always sweeping.
Right. Yeah.
I sweep everybody. Yeah. And it's just that was just what I love to do, because it's a pleasant thing to do. You see them go down and, you know, the fight is over. Now, of course, I could have dived on them and struggled with them on the floor, but that really was never the Laugar kind of fighting style. Get them down. If you want someone to fall, you want them to land on their head.
Yes, right. Okay.
But
So,
of course, you can't do that in training.
no. What do you mean that isn't the Laugar fighting style? Is it what you just said then? If you want them to fall, you want them to land on their head?
Yeah, you want them to fall, but the style of fighting that we always practice, of course, with the semi-contact for training and then during the syllabus and so on, most clubs throughout most people's careers, you didn't see mats on the floor for a long, long time in my day. It was all concrete floors. I swept someone once 6 times, and on the 6th time, because he kicked me in the chest. Yeah, all right.
Sorry, have we heard this before?
Well, you dislocated the shoulder. I told you.
Yeah,
shut up. Shut up.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Anyway, no, but the point I'm making is concrete floors.
Yeah.
You know,
not
they're going to get up again. Not conducive to going on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that would be interesting to see. People do jiu-jitsu do jiu-jitsu on a solid wooden floor for a while, and see how long they're going to last. Because, you know, it's not nice to have your elbows and knees squishing on the floor all the time under someone's weight.
No.
So at the end of the day, it's you know, that you can train in the environment you've got.
What would you say?
The way it is.
What would you say is the Laugar fighting style? What if you had to encompass it, or, you know, sum it up? What would you say?
I'd say we're close proximity and control, and ending the fight as fast as possible.
So what does that mean? Just be more like, you know. What do you mean?
That means responding to whatever is happening to you, either preemptive or you know, afterwards. What sort of word for that? Proemptive?
No.
Post-emptive?
Post-emptive.
Preemptive? Post-emptive?
There you go.
There you go.
Maybe,
I don't know if it's might be a word. True.
Might be a
anyway,
word.
Either way, you are going to respond to it, and you're going to, you know, injure or subdue the person as quickly as you can, and then get and do finish the fight.
Right.
But as I said before, I do believe the person should be on the floor for the fight to be over. You do not want him to be standing there. You know, but it is going to happen. But as long as he's, you know, and out, as long as he's no longer interested in fighting or shows any possible danger, like, because he could always pick up something if he's still standing. So the objective is to get him down. But one of the things that I don't agree with, and I think the guy you're talking about is with me on this, is that you don't want to be lying all over the floor. You know, you don't want to be wrestling on the floor, because if you're going to fight someone in the street, first of all, he's not always going to be alone. No. You're going to be on the floor with him. People are going to turn up. Yeah. And that's never a good place to be.
No. What? Right. I said to you, what is the Laugar fighting sort of style? How do you define
that's
it?
how I see
Right.
it. That's how I see it.
Well, I got another question for you. What is a fighting style? What is it in general terms? If you're fighting someone, forget the styles now. Forget what it's called.
The objective is to reduce the interest of fighting by the opponent. You've got to reduce his interest to participate. That's it.
And that is an escalation of violence, because it might just be you shouting F off in his face and looking mean and ugly, and he backs down.
Right. Exactly.
But you've got to be prepared to escalate.
And you've got to have the skills to follow it up.
Right. Yeah.
Not just the belief.
No. That's interesting. Talking about, so since I am sort of dabbling in the jiu-jitsu world, I will say this about jiu-jitsu. It's a different realm on the floor when you cannot strike per se, but people will argue that jiu-jitsu is basically an escalation of pins on the floor, which lead to positions, which lead to submissions, but all within the context of putting you in a position whereby you can strike them effectively on the floor. However, in jiu-jitsu, the strikes are seldom trained. Okay,
yeah, because they're not part of the sport.
Right, because they're not part of the sport. Now, when you take jiu-jitsu into the realm of MMA, mixed martial arts, now you've got a different animal, because now the people are striking you on the floor. Yeah. So, you've got these varying levels of understanding and of perception of what jiu-jitsu is. But if we're talking about it in different contexts, I'm just talking about normal sport jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm going to, there's a, it's interesting, but
well, then it's down to individuals. Then once you take it into the realms of sport, it's down to an individual,
right? Okay,
right, and it's down to the moment, right? So obviously there are people that will train specific things that will always work, or seldom.
Yeah, right. So if I'm fighting, I'll back fist reverse. It's semi-contact, right?
Yeah.
Because I know I'm pretty. I can get that off.
You're going to be able to. I'm
going to be able to.
And it's the same with jiu-jitsu people, but they need to know their opponent. And of course, the benefit of going into a competition, particularly a large competition, is you usually know your opponent and his style, because you can watch videos of his previous fights and how he handled specific techniques and how he responded to specific techniques.
Yeah.
So that's all part and parcel of the training, but the training is all geared around winning the fight. Okay, that specific fight, understanding that specific opponent.
With that specific rule set.
With those specific rules, and therefore, to that end, it limits itself by definition to an individual. Right. Now, not just the individual that's attacking you, but your concept of the individual, your understanding of the other individual.
Right.
So it becomes a personal fight.
Right.
It doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or whatever better than each other. It only means that one person has done more homework and more training than the other.
Right.
Or in the event, someone has been injured inadvertently and can no longer function continually,
right,
and have to give up the fight. So, or they were just caught out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's everything. All those things I've mentioned are all in the moment in that specific fight.
Yeah.
So you can't, people can scream and shout all they like at the camera and say, oh yeah, this is the best fighting, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. Well, you're proving it because you've done the training, and you doubt very much that the other person has.
Right.
I certainly haven't done the training to like fight someone in a ring, in a jiu-jitsu or whatever. And good on you, you'll beat me crazy. But in the street, if you attack me, I'll do everything I can to prevent you from winning.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean to say I have to win, but I just have to take you with me.
Oh gosh, that sounds quite violent. This is too much for me.
But that's what it is, isn't it? In the street, it's violent.
I get you.
I'm not going to, if someone stands in front of me and says, I'll fight you, I'm going to poke him in the eye before he ends his sentence.
Oh.
simply because I'm going to be required to.
Well, age notwithstanding.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah.
You're not a spring chicken anymore, Noobs.
I said poke in the eye because I can't lift my leg high enough to the nuts.
We'll all get there one day. We'll all get there.
Exactly, and people do. And then they regret doing what they choosing the kind of fighting that they chose. Honestly.
So I've got a sort of a point, what should I say? A point of view about how a jiu-jitsu person may or may not interpret what they do. So they might turn around to you and say, right, listen, jiu-jitsu, it's on the floor. If I want to brand a steer, I ain't gonna bother with it standing up. I'm gonna take it down, control it, then I can go to work on it. Yeah. So why do I want to dance around, hitting, punching? I'll just close that gap. I'll level change. I'll shoot you. I'll take your legs from under you. I'll get you on the floor, no matter what it takes. Then you're in my domain. So what do you say to sort of that theory?
Well, he's got to close that gap first.
Well, he's got to close the gap, yeah.
Well, that's where he doesn't dominate.
Right. So
he only dominates once he's on the floor.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Because you remember, Bill Wallace. He had this great thing where he said, because he commentated on the first UFC, and he had this great thing where he said, all fights end up on the floor, but all fights start up standing.
Exactly.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. No. So you're talking about that moment of the closing the gap, the no man's land, or no, is it not no man's land? Just this moment, this because there is a world of things happening between opponent A and opponent B as they close the gap with each other. And there's only a couple of ways you can close the gap,
Yeah, but do you have to close the gap? Because if the guy's stupid enough to come to you, you don't have to close the gap. What you're doing is inviting him. Sometimes people will just pretend to be injured. Sometimes people will turn away. Some people will just look down. Some people will do. I mean, these guys that practice drunken kung fu, for instance, the idea to pretend you're drunk and then suddenly smack them. The thing is, if then you challenge someone to say that drunken kung fu is better and you start falling about, well, then no, you're not drunk, so you've lost the initiative straight away.
Yeah, you've lost the element of surprise. Jesus Christ. Yes.
So that's the kind of thing that you really don't want to be doing.
No, not really.
So drunken kung fu is great.
I think
in
we've seen
self-defense
that
in a pub.
I think we've seen that in one of these challenge matches somewhere. I'm sure.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched one the other day.
It's like, are you nuts?
Pretending to be drunk, and the guy's just standing there and kicking him. And that's it.
Yeah. You kind of missed the point there, chap.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. No, it's interesting. But yeah. So talk more about sort of this closing the gap. What this moment is about. Because it's okay. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say each person is different. So it totally depends on how you look at the person. It totally depends on the size of the person.
Yeah.
It depends on the environment. It depends on the weather. It depends on the slope of the ground. It depends on where you're indoors, outdoors. It depends if you've got light behind you or in front of you. There's loads of advantages you can have before the fight begins. But the important thing is, has the fight already begun? In other words, are you in a match? Have you already been threatened? Mm-hmm. Or is it just a sudden, rebuke? Is it a sudden someone grabs you from behind?
Right.
All these things factor in. You don't know what can happen. The only thing is, if you train hard enough and experience that long enough, then you have a good chance. If you don't practice, if you don't experience those things, you're going to have less of a chance.
Oh, I got a good story. So I was in the army, right? I was outside the armory in Northern Ireland cleaning me weapon, right? I had my back to someone. I was talking to my little group of friends. Someone throws something at me. I can't remember whether it was a sweet or something. It hits me on the back of the head. I turn around. I was like, oh, what's it? He said, oh, you didn't block that, did you still? I went, it's because I didn't see it. Anyway, at the end, we get up. I said, right, come here. I said, come, I think, I can't remember who it was. Mate, I don't know who it was. I said, right, whoever you were. I said, now hit me. And they went, and I went, bam, like that. So I just did I didn't hit them. I just moved into them. I said, see, now I can see it coming. Right? I was like, of course I'm not going to see it because it's behind me. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it, for God's sake. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So
and this is it, but well, that's it. And then some people who experience that kind of environment a lot are constantly live, like in a situation where you're constantly aware of the enemy being around you, like in Basra or wherever you are, in any kind of war zone, you're always going to be aware that something's going to happen around you. But the unfortunate thing about modern warfare, of course, it can happen for 300 yards away or whatever. So, but in olden times, I would imagine they were pretty alert.
I would say
pretty alert, and they would be able to respond in an instant.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that the fighting would have gone down really well down there. I've watched Game of Thrones. I've seen these things.
This must be real.
Yeah.
So,
but yes, this is obviously one of the things that people will be far more aware. You may have someone who's experienced an awful lot of danger in sitting in a pub, and he's not going to say boo to a goose, but as soon as he responds, they're going to know about it. Pretty straight away. Yeah. So it's a violence and fighting is a very, very difficult thing to nail down. It's every individual's ball game, I guess. Everyone. The trouble is that everybody thinks they can, win. So they set out with the idea to win without any practice whatsoever,
right?
And or with a limited amount of practice. So some are lucky and never get a situation where they are going to, come unstuck, and the person is far more talented than they are.
Yeah.
And then others are just unlucky and they get the worst kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so, but that's life, that's, what can you say? How can you nail that down? You can't.
No,
life's a bitch and then you die, so
yeah,
that's the way it is.
Yeah. It's not quantifiable. It's in the moment. It's,
That's right.
I
so
think
all we can,
go on.
I was just going to say, all we can do is train, practice something scientific for the event. I mean, there are so many people that practice the things that don't ever come.
Well, I guess one of the things about traditional martial arts is people, are in a constant sort of in a constant, what's the word? They're constantly trying to simplify martial arts.
Yeah.
And you see this with a lot of these self-defense people and stuff like that. And what they're teaching isn't, bad per se, but the attitude of them is, I'm going to simplify something that is wholly complicated. I'm going to simplify it so that everyone could learn it. Does it work like that? Does it work
I think you can personalize it, but I don't think you can simplify it.
Right.
So personalize it means, okay, this person is a certain weight. They're not going to be able to use this particular technique in that way.
Yeah.
Simply because they won't have the strength to do it. So you can utilize it in a different way by doing it in a different method, or being in a different position when it's done.
Right.
So it's, you can do that, but that's no guarantee it's going to work. But, people train all the time, don't they? I mean, I would imagine then when you went to your military training, when you first joined the army and they told you this is going to happen, that's going to happen, you probably didn't believe them. And when you went there and things do happen, you have to make your own way in it, and it's down to your character and your luck that is going to get you through it. But that then serves as an experience. Yes. And with that experience, you are now, apart from the training, beyond the training, you are within the realms of experience.
Yes. Right.
You are now an artist, right? Because you now have the concept of an understanding and the right mental attitude to be able to deal with it. But it can overwhelm you. Too much of that can overwhelm you.
Yeah.
And people do go to pieces, when they're that, on a sense of alertness constantly.
Yeah,
So no one can be. No one can
I
be.
use the term paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you become paranoid. Yeah.
But you see, I don't know if it's such a thing as healthy paranoia or half switched on paranoia. But
yeah,
I find, and it's not a military thing. I think I've always
no.
been like it.
The Pink Panther was the same.
Right? Is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Kato kept jumping on him.
That's right. No, was it Kato in the Pink Panther? Was it? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah, I think his name was.
And he kept
not now, Kato. Not now.
He kept on trying to hit him to jump out whenever. So I don't know you're there.
I think his name was Kato. I mean, I understand. Was Bruce Lee's name Kato in that?
Yeah, Bruce Lee Kato was in the Green Hornet.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh Christ, what's his name?
Anyway, someone can tell us.
Hang on. I got to IMDb this now because I'm not happy with Kato. Wait there. IMDb. Yeah, it was Kato.
There you go.
It was Kato.
Yeah. And I bet you he's Alexander the Great as well.
Oh, God's sake, yeah. No, but it's like it's I don't, like I said, is it healthy paranoia? Just or you're just trying to be aware of your surroundings and stuff. I mean,
you can only be so aware. That's the thing.
Yeah, you'll always drop your guard.
People will always train you and say you've got to be aware. You've got to be aware. Look for your surroundings.
Yeah.
You see people. Don't be in a situation where there's likely to be trouble.
Yes.
Well, they're right. I mean, you can avoid most fights by just not being there.
Yeah.
You don't go to a place where there's going to be, it's highly likely it's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
But I mean, that means you'd miss pretty much every football match you wanted to go to.
No, that's true.
But get in the stalls and don't get in the, rather in the seats rather than in the stalls, and don't get pushed around. You don't get pushed and shoved. But but it's always going to be a tiny percentage of people who will, create that situation.
Oh,
but isn't it always? Violence is a very tiny, weeny segment of society. It's a very minuscule.
So I was watching Starship Troopers the other week. Now, in Starship Troopers, which is like, you've probably never seen it, but it's a fantastic film from the late 90s. It's basically like a fascist film, but it's disguised as like, wholesome young men going off to fight a war. Yeah. Anyway, no, it's not that.
With a Starship Trooper.
It's not that. Anyway, the guy in it, he says, like Radchek, he says that violence is the supreme authority by which all other authorities are derived. What do you think of that?
Probably right.
Do you think?
Yeah, he's probably right, because all authority uses violence to quell, and obviously they have to contain people. If they can't contain them, they use violence to contain them.
It's a threat of violence as well.
It's a threat of violence as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So if people know that they have no chance of winning, despite their violence, then they'll succumb to it. But if they don't think they're going to be subdued, they will be violent. And they think that violence will win them over. And that's pretty much everything. That's like, shall we say, hostage situation. That's a courtroom situation. That's pretty much every situation.
Right.
It's always going to be their choice. I mean, how many people dream of saying, if I just smash this guy in the face, I can make the door. It's violence. It's automatic. Yeah. So violence is pretty much part of human nature.
Yeah. What
But martial arts isn't meant to be violent. It's not violent. It's a way to stop violence, to halt violence in its tracks.
By training violence.
By training to succumb violence.
By its nature, isn't it violent?
You could say by its nature it is violent, but the idea is not to be overly violent. It's to control violence by meeting violence with some controlled violence or some
Well, you've always used the Shaolin analogy you know, it's an escalation of force, isn't it? You know, avoid rather than maim rather than kill, you know, etc. And it's that progressive escalation. But we have to, I kind of think when you say that, these guys, the real monks way back when, they were pretty damn hot. So they had this skill set whereby they possibly could. But I don't think any of us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't think any of us.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
Train that hard in the modern world.
No, but everybody tries to go, you know, take it easy, calm down, calm down. And that's not going to, you know, stop anybody. But, you know, if you say calm down, they smack you and you just laugh at them. Well, and what that's going to change it?
No, you see, hey, you've got to turn the other cheek. Why? So you can hit the other one.
Yeah. Well, this is it. You see, if you think about monks in comparison to Christian monks, if you think of Taoist monks, if you like, or Shaolin or whatever, in terms of, okay, you train that hard, if you want followers, then all you got to do is, you know, go down to the market and people they try and pick on you and they try and steal from you and they try and beat the crap out of you. And you've got the capability of defending yourself without hurting them every time they, you know, the David Carradine type thing.
There you go.
You know, they're thrown around all over the place. Don't you think you're going to win some followers?
I would
very quickly. That. Yeah. But if you just turn the other cheek and they smack you around the mouth, they're not going to want to be like you.
No.
So, you know, the only reason they want to be like you as a Christian, because if you're not like them, you know, if you don't become a Christian, they'll burn you to death. So I think I'll become a Christian then. Yeah. And that's the difference, don't you think?
Yes. It's a funny.
You're either a Christian or a bloody heathen or you know, a heretic. So you get burned. Oh, all right then. Let me think. I think I'll be a Christian today.
Yeah.
So whereas obviously if you had the capability of you know, stemming a fight or stopping a fight, the guy goes, just now, where did you learn all that? I want to learn all that.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I realize that violence is completely useless because against people who have that capability, it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, it's.
You know, how many countries go, oh, yeah, I don't think I'll fight them. They've got a nuclear weapon.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got a massive army. Like you say, violence is the, you know, the mainstay.
Yeah. Well,
you know, you can do politics until you just don't want to do politics anymore.
Well, what was it? Yeah, it's true. Yeah, what was it? Von Clausewitz says, you know, politics is, what is it? So war is, oh, for Christ's sake, war is the escalation of politics by other means, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, right, okay. So everything, you know, it's interesting. Violence is interesting. Just very, you know, the psychology of it. And I don't think enough people appreciate the psychology of martial arts. Now, you see, because particularly Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu, people think it's very sort of, you know, and I use the word esoteric about it all the time because people perceive it to be, oh, it just is that now. No. It's not.
Yeah, but the thing is, you see, it's renowned for its beauty, you know, beautiful martial arts, and they see the Tai Chi and they think it's beautiful movements, and so you get the wrong people wanting to do it, and therefore you get all the people that really wouldn't make martial artists. Very few of them actually become good martial artists. They're very happy to do all the forms, and they're very happy, and that's why we always have the arguments with people saying, "No, it's not just about martial arts. It's always about." You know, it's about learning, you know, about yourself and all that kind of thing. Well, when you're violent, believe me, you learn about yourself.
Yeah, so definitely.
No doubt about it. In a situation like that, you do learn about yourself. So it cannot be separated. No. Unfortunately, the people that learn it nowadays separate it.
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing about martial arts as it is nowadays, dying because of it. And they're replacing it with a sport context where they follow people who are effectively stars because they believe in what they are proving.
Yeah.
That they win.
Yeah.
They only ever win one fight at a time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they lose and then they move on. and someone else comes into play, and they start following them, and they start following them, and so on and so forth. So it's, you know, it's not about their style. It's not about the way they fight. It's about their, you know, their personality. So the ones that've got the biggest personalities are the ones that get the biggest fans. The ones that get the biggest fans, or the more fans, obviously become the greatest, you know, by definition.
Yeah.
You know, you may not realize that they lose just as much as everyone else in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
before we sign off, I just going back to what you said about Laugar as a complete style.
Yeah.
Define that for me. What do you mean by that?
Well, it means that there's no limit to it. If you're training, you find a way through.
Right.
The thing is, a lot of people, they want to start a style. They start a, you know, these people, the one that really gets me is the people that say all styles martial arts, or, you know, mixed martial arts is a typical example.
Right.
Mixed martial arts. So they're learning one specific part of a martial art and then going for another, then going for another and going for another. But if they was to stay with a genuine martial art throughout their career, throughout their training, they would realize that though that martial art itself has an intrinsic value in every department, in every avenue of that fighting. There is holding, there is blocking, there is striking, there is throwing, there is everything in it. But if you don't stay and see it, and you don't stay and understand it, and you don't digest it, then you will lose, because you will then go to a different style and then have to start all over again. You cannot match the two, because to be honest with you, with most martial arts, they're all made up anyway. But I mean modern made up. They're not genuine martial arts.
Right.
Laugar is, to all intents and purposes, has been proven a genuine martial art. Now you can say to me, oh yeah, but like, we agree, you cannot take that much history. You can't go back that far in history. We don't need to. We've brought history with us. We've brought the technical science with us. We can see how it works, and we've seen that it works. And that's the biggest thing. We don't need a personality to say, oh, this is why it works, because this personality keeps winning. You look at the general consensus of the whole of semi-contact and you know, throughout the career of 30, 40 years, not just one individual.
No,
and you've seen the whole style.
But you've got to admit, though, we do sort of, you will hark on to back in the day, what's his name was winning, Laugar was being represented, you know.
Yeah, but how many? I wrote 20 names for you.
Right, okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
They're all been successful right the way through, and some of them who are very, very good weren't so successful, weren't that interesting in competition, but still very good fighters.
Right.
An example, George Shaw.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you can see, you can see how good these people were, and they were great advocates of what Lau presented.
But isn't it sort of isn't it what we train that makes us a good? I don't believe in styles per se. I don't believe in you know, Laugar is the foundation of what I do, right? So I'll always use it as the example by which I compare everything else, right? But I'm not going to say this move is specific to Laugar. This move we only do in Laugar. So
no one suggests that.
No, I'm not saying that you were suggesting it, but what I'm trying to do is I'm just simply saying I don't believe in a style per se. For me, it's just the science. The movements, you know, the sets.
But in that is a contradiction, because Laugar is effectively a science, because you practice it because it's a science. By definition, therefore, you practice a style. Now, you can say, oh, yeah, but I can learn the same thing if I do Wing Chun. Well, yes, you can learn the same thing. So why do Wing Chun? Because you are learning the same thing. Do you see?
I see exactly what you mean. And I understand exactly.
So by definition,
but we have to name it.
Style.
Yeah, but we have to call it something, don't we? We have to sort of.
That's what a style is. I think that's where it falls down, where you have to call it a name. Yes. where you have to say, but that isn't that the same as anything everything has to be named in order to understand it. And so we by definition call our style Lao, and other people call their style something else. We have a comfort in knowing that it's a successful style. We also have a comfort in knowing that it has a scientific principle to it. We don't change that scientific principle, so therefore we don't change the style. So you can stand there and say, well, I don't believe in a style, I believe in the science, but the science by definition is the style. The science is the style is that science. You know, if you look at, and of course it depends on what avenue you're in as well, because obviously some people have done Laogar and disagreed with the science because they didn't see it. But you've seen it, and you can see it, and you get to see it every day.
Yeah, but it's not. I never forced it. I've never forced it to go. I want to understand it. It's been a natural thing that's come.
It's a natural. It's just because it's a simple science. Yeah, it's like gravity. You know, you can't turn around and say, "Well, I don't believe in gravity, but I accept that it's there." Do you know what I mean? Gravity is a foregone, until you come up with something else. It's a foregone conclusion.
I absolutely kind of understand your argument there. I really do. But see, on the one hand, I'm saying, you know, let's just look at our techniques. They're frigging everywhere, littered across Chinese martial arts.
Of course they are. It's a Chinese style,
right?
So,
exactly, right. Okay, sorry, go on.
I was going to say the benefit of what we've done is that it has been an integral part of the training. It's been it's been a constant. It's been a family constant. It's been a tradition. It's been you know, the avenue of teacher to teacher to teacher.
Yeah,
you know,
but that's getting lost. That's getting lost.
It is. No, I agree with you. It's getting lost, and hopefully that we can sustain it, at least in our little corner of the world. But that's not, unfortunately, that's not the opportunity that a lot of martial arts have had. And there are little pits of, you know, Wing Chun somewhere where someone is really training it really well and doing it well. And they're looking at the rest of their Wing Chun, you know, brethren, and they're looking at the different, you know, avenues that Wing Chun has taken, and are going, you know what, Jesus, no wonder people think Wing Chun's so crap, the way that guy goes up and, you know, offers the boxer out and thinks he can win, you know, whereas they may have a really good science and sustain that science, you know, to all intents and purposes as a whole. And that's what we're trying to do, is to maintain that science as a whole. And so we can only teach what we know, but as we teach, so we know. And we discover. And so it's about having that, as you said and mentioned it before, it's a recipe. And because you have the recipe, you know, you'll never starve.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I think that's a good point at which to end it. You know, that was pretty good. I like that discussion. I didn't know where it was going, but that was okay.
Do we ever know where it's going?
Well, sometimes. But you know, just something to think about, you know. So anyway,
food for thought,
guys. Thank you so much for joining us as ever. If you enjoyed that, please, you know, sort of ring the bell, subscribe on YouTube, send us a comment if you agree, if you don't agree. You know, if you please bring us your opinions on what we talk about. You know, that's very important to us. You know, we're out to learn.
Always want to learn. We're desperate to learn, but
that's it. So you know,
martial arts. We want martial arts to succeed and survive.
Yeah,
we don't want you know, we don't want martial arts to die. You know, it's a fighting battle. It's a losing battle. But we need.
Well, someone's going to do it.
We can at least help.
Someone's going to do it. Right. Oh, I got a big bump on my head. I hit. I hit a table. Yeah, no, it wasn't a table. It was a bandsaw steel sort of thing, and I put it like that by accident. Yeah, really smart.
Don't have a gym where he does woodwork.
Needs must, old man. Right. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. My name's James Still. As ever, I'm joined by Mr. Steve Newby, all the way from Canada. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to catch you soon on another episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. Take care, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
All the best to you all.
I kick your little Beijing ass right now, man. I ain't scared of you. I know you know that little tricky shit. Come on.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you like that and you want to find out more about us, you can head over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube and find us under SJN Martial Arts. And also guys, this podcast is available on Podbean and iTunes. So until next time, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again on the Kung Fu Podcast.
You're a pushy little bastard, ain't you? But I like that.
Can you break a log like that?
Don't know. Never been attacked by tree.